Is it over? My body temperature is too low to verify that. Once an active smoker, cannabis, some old friends convinced me to come outside and take a quick hit for old time's sake. I took at least 10 large, deep breaths. Beforehand, I had noted that it didn't smell like weed and later confirmed that it was heavily potent PCP-laced marijuana. My brain rejected it and trauma ensued following days of misery with a semi-miserable life. The first effect was a pounding on my upper spine. Something was going on there and it was making my vision strobe and I could feel every passage of blood through my body. I sat at the computer, but something was wrong. My heart was racing and about to burst out of me. I could feel a disconnection in my ribcage, though this was purely mental. But my heart kept going faster and faster and my breathing got slower and slower. And then I realized, after counting it, my heartbeat had not changed at all, but my perception of it was twisted. My hearing and other feelings became incredibly acute. I could hear every noise around me and shut whatever I could up. I felt my tongue in my mouth like it was a glistening unfamiliar thing. My vision began to trail and my head and neck movements were extremely robotic or poorly animated, changing positions in straight motions and then locking. My dad noted that my door was open and earlier I was missing and I did not answer on my cell. I had to convince him that I walked around outside to make a phone call. He was already worried because he closed it and locked it, but I think he got over it. However, I'm worried that I may have reeked of something when I came inside and he may know what happened. My entire conversation with him was from a different angle, and I thought up the things I'd say only after I'd said them. I did my best to be unnoticeable, and declared that I was going to get some sleep early. This was 6:30 p.m. I stood up when I got back to my room, but my eyes were covered by a transparent hand and I could feel a propeller in my head lifting me and taking weight off of my spine. I sat down again. The feeling in my back from before intensified, and I could, very sharply, feel wings on my back. They were large and angelic, and I can describe them as being two parts. It was like the exact crossing between reality and unreality. The first was an extremely heavy bone to the wings, which was the part connected to my upper back. It was thick and branch-like and put a lot of weight on my balance. But the rest was an infinity of thick white feathers, and I had a strong connection to each of them. I tried to move them and could feel them going to a more outwards position. It was mind-blowing. I tried to accept that it was a hallucination, but the experience was too strong to be denied. I tried to concentrate on something else. I put on a live Jane's Addiction set I downloaded, and it was strange. I didn't know any of the songs, but I know every Jane's Addiction song. Yet, I felt a strange connection to the music, and then turned and saw my guitar. I then saw myself pick it up, play 30 seconds, and put it down satisfied. The friends I had messaged before had not answered yet, so I played another 30 seconds. I repeated this about 3 times, though the total time managed out to be about 1 minute. I got immediate advice to go to sleep from a friend online. It was like a virtual sitter. He got me to calm down first, then try to make me ride it in a stable mental condition. I got under my covers and shut out all the lights, and then it really occurred to me just how fucked my physical state was at the time. My heart raced again, and my breathing seemed like very slow waves on a coastline. It was like being strangled, and when I opened my eyes, the conditions were normal. I accepted the fact that if I close my eyes, I will die. My parents would find me dead, heart stopped, their disappointing child. I would be torn away from my friends' lives. I'd had a miserable week, yet today seemed like an interesting day to die. So I closed my eyes and decided to see what it would show me. My bed became a falling platform, descending at impossible speeds. I was falling faster, further, but I opened my eyes and got my heart to slow down and my breathing to return. I had to sleep through this, so I closed my eyes again, and this time the experience was in reverse. The bed was ascending at incredible speeds, and my body was being forced against it. Gravity was crushing me against my ceiling. Then, some very weak hallucinations came up in my head and I laid there, remembering them for what felt like the entire night. I looked at the clock. 3 minutes had passed, but I fell asleep and sit here. 2:30 a.m., awake now. I have a lot of homework to do. Having a fairly strong knowledge of hallucinogens and a strange interest in them, this was an unexpected experience and, at the moment, life-changing. I feel detached and the emotion of it is concentrated into my upper back. The experience with those wings was so real that I took my shirt off to check for signs of it. Nothing. I want the wings back, but the fear that I felt, I do not want to experience again. I'm puzzled now and mostly still in shock. What the fuck happened last night? What the fuck am I? Was it God I touched? Why was that horrifying? I am cold now and my parents are asleep. What will today bring? Will they know? What will I tell people? Who will I tell? It is cold. My view of the world has completely changed, and this experience has forever scared the living hell out of me. I've been smoking weed for about 4 years now. My friend had just picked up this killer-looking bud. It smelled kind of funny and looked as if there were white crystals on it. My same friend just picked up an Illadelph bong, so we thought, what the heck, why not break it in? Separated between 3 people, we smoked 3 bowl packs out of the bong, which went around our circle twice each time. My 2 other friends felt tingly high. I felt as if something was wrong. Nothing made sense. After we were done, we put all the shit away, and 30 minutes or so went by and I found myself sitting in my friend's bedroom. I thought I was just mind-bendingly high until everything went wrong. My friend and this other kid left me sitting on his bed, and as soon as they left, it almost felt as if I left reality. As soon as the door closed, I could only look straight. I couldn't move my eyes anywhere. Then I started thinking about shit and couldn't stop. What is thinking? How does thinking work? Why are words named words? Why am I thinking right now? People think all the time. What the fuck is thinking? Why am I thinking this? Why am I thinking right now? Can you ever stop thinking? Thoughts related to this were racing through my mind. It was almost like a stream of constant mind fucks. As this started to happen, I lost myself in almost a separate reality. I'd start visualizing different words and hearing different people's voices, and as I tried to identify what I was seeing, none of it would make sense. It was almost like I was constantly mindfucking myself, and every time it happened, the stuff I would think about would make me feel worse than I've ever felt before. This was only the beginning. Shortly after this happened, I guess I passed out on my friend's bed sitting up. The nightmare had begun. I found myself falling down a tunnel seeing images and feeling what the corresponding image or thought that was in my mind. I heard voices saying, "Go kill yourself," or "You're going to die," while all these other pictures and feelings were racing through my mind. These weren't slow feelings either, they were all moving very fast. I'd feel like I was throwing up for a second, then I'd change to being high, then drunk, then having sex, then driving, the feeling of jeans. I felt my dog, my friend's dog, a couch, etc. I'd hear my people's voices I knew. They'd be talking, yelling, or crying, and I'd try to identify who it was, then the voice would change. After this happened, I would keep seeing different pictures in my mind of places I've been in my life, and it was almost like I could pause the picture or change it right away. It was almost like each picture or time in my life or some random place would morph into somewhere else. The last place I saw was a table and a chair. There was carpet on the floor and it looked like the TV was on in the corner. Except for some reason, the POV I had, I was under the chair. Then all of a sudden, I opened my eyes very slowly. It was like I had to force my eyes open. As this happened, I looked around at my friends. I had no idea what the hell was going on. I wasn't even sure if I was awake, if this was my real life, or if it was all going to morph again shortly because it was just on pause. This is what scared the hell out of me. The thought that, is this my life right now, or is it going to morph into something absolutely random? After I came to, my friends realized something was wrong, because there's no way I could fall asleep sitting up when I wasn't tired at all. I had trouble keeping my eyes open, and I told my friend that I was scared to close my eyes again, because I might go back to my nightmare, or die. He then asked me if I felt like I had to puke. As soon as he asked this question, I felt the feeling that I felt earlier when I was in another reality, then instantly got up feeling light and dizzy and vomited for 10 or 15 minutes straight. After this, I pretty much slept for the rest of the day and night. This experience made me stop smoking for a while because I was so scared that if I smoked again, I'd go back to where I was on that terrible day. I have never been so afraid in my life. I'm just glad that I awoke from that hell. I'm 16 and my partner is also 16. My memory of this event is very hazy, so I'll try my best to be accurate. It's the weekend and my partner has come over for a sleepover. We text our drug dealer to meet up with us so that we could get edibles and a disposable. He came, we got the stuff, and started eating the edibles. That shit tasted despicable. I could still taste it. Fucking disgusting. But we managed to dog it down, and then we headed to the mall so we could go on a Build-A-Bear date. On the ride there, I could tell it was starting to hit us. We both were staring out the window, not saying anything. My memory starts getting hazy here. I don't remember getting out of the car, nor walking into the mall. I just remember the array of bears streaming by as I walked by them. My vision and perception of the world started losing their grip. I could only see the world frame by frame. At this point, I knew I was the highest I had ever been, and I didn't know what to do. I wasn't necessarily panicking, just kinda going with it. My partner picked out a Nightmare Before Christmas bear for us, and I was just going with the flow. I asked them, "Are you as high as I am right now?" And they replied, "Yeah, we took way too much." That's when I could feel a sense of calm, muffled panic wash over me like a wave. It was because I felt their voice in my skull. Our brains were trapped on another plane of existence, and our physical bodies were just floating around this Build-A-Bear store. I started to feel like I was walking on clouds. I tried to act as normal as possible because my mom was eyeing us and lurking around us at this point. We went to the changing station where we could put an outfit on our bears. As I attempted to put the outfit on, it kept morphing in my hand. I put the arm through the jacket hole, but it turns out I put the leg through instead. I was so confused because I didn't realize that there were pants with the outfit I chose. As you can probably tell, all logic had left my brain. Also, let me note, my partner is acting completely fine. It was me who was acting all out of sorts, most likely because they are a more experienced user than I am. However, my mom took notice of my strange behavior. She came up to me and asked, "What did you do? Did you take something?" She was upset, and all I could do at that point was giggle. She said, "Oh, so you think this is funny? I'll pay for you, then we are leaving. Say goodbye to your friend, you'll never see them again." "Chill, we just took edibles, we are just very, very high right now." We paid and started leaving. My memory blinks out again. I don't remember leaving, just sitting in the backseat of the car. My mom starts lecturing us. I don't even remember what she said. All I know is I began to feel a burning sensation in my chest. I felt my pulse and was beating very fast. I started freaking out because on the outside I felt very calm, but my heart was beating a million miles per hour. I clenched my chest and mumbled, "My chest," and my mom screamed like she always does. Then my breathing started to increase. I was having a panic attack. I knew that, so I tried slowing my breathing down, but my heart kept beating faster and faster. Still clenching to my chest, I looked up and saw all white. My inner monologue got very loud and wispy at the same time. Multiple thoughts went through my mind. That's it. I'm dying. Am I ready to die? This is death. I said out loud, "I think I'm having a heart attack." My mother started freaking out and started speeding to the nearest urgent care. I barely remember anything at this point. Just when I thought I couldn't get any higher, I got higher. My vision was so fuzzy and gray, yet completely gone at the same time. I was stuck in this trance-like state, completely convinced I was dead. The world was muffled around me, and my mom was driving erratically, almost getting into an accident a couple of times. She kept slamming on the brakes, and every time I would lurch forward, I would then feel a delayed wave-like pulse of panic wash over me. I remember my whole body starting to uncontrollably convulse. I think I passed out because I woke up still convulsing and to my mom's muffled screaming crying, "Someone help me, it's my daughter." I assume I was in the hospital parking lot at this point. My memory blanks again. Next thing I know, I'm stumbling into the hospital waiting room chair, unable to speak or walk properly, and I'm still having seizure-like convulsions. The lady behind the desk says, "We need a doctor immediately, we have a very sick patient here." They put me in a wheelchair and I am rigid and shaking. My memory blanks again. The next thing I remember, I'm sitting in the hospital bed. My memory keeps going in and out now. I just remember small moments of doctors asking me, "What did you take? Were you trying to kill yourself? Why did you take this much?" I felt my head spinning. My face felt numb, and when I reached up to touch my face, water was leaking from my eyes. They hooked me up to an IV and I sat there for a while. Eventually, I came down. I haven't been the same since. I still experience twitching daily, and I have erratic dissociative episodes. It's safe to say I am never touching weed again. I've been a cannabis user for quite a number of years now, but I've never quite experienced what I experienced the other night. I purchased a tiny amount of weed from a friend. I say tiny because I remember feeling a bit of disappointment that I got what I felt was about half the amount for the same price. And when I examined it, it didn't look like much, didn't have that potent, exotic smell I associate with really good weed. Maybe one sad-looking bud and the rest was all crumbled up leaves, kind of pulverized looking. Be that as it may, I went home and decided to smoke a bit of it, just to test it. Prior to smoking, I made some fresh vegetable juice for my girlfriend and I. Then I stepped outside, lit up, and took a couple of good strong hits, taking down half the joint, thinking I need that just to feel the minimal effects of the swag. Then I went back inside and began to disassemble the juicer and wash the parts in the sink, and in doing so, began to experience the onset, which seemed fairly normal. I remember standing at the sink and rinsing the juicer blade, then just standing and letting the ice-cold water flow over my hands from the faucet and thinking it felt really good to do so. Then I finished and turned to pour the fresh juice I had made into the glasses, when suddenly, my hand in the juice glass burst into crazy colors which swirled around within the outlines of my hand and the glass. I closed my eyes, hoping to bring things back to normal, and was startled by the appearance of huge red and pink flowers turning like gears behind my closed eyes. The flowers resembled candy, like something you'd see on a cake or something. Somehow I controlled these images and impressions and managed to bring the juice upstairs where my girlfriend had already gone to bed. On the way back down, my feet were uncoordinated due to the patterns of the oriental carpeting on the stairs and the way faces and animals were lurking in the patterns, which were somehow animated. I was trying hard not to step on any one of these, thanking God my girlfriend had gone to bed so she wouldn't see me. One of my favorite things to do when I'm stoned is to keep a journal, write down my fractured but interesting thoughts. So seeing this was some trippy weed, I got a pen and pad and went to work. While I was writing, somehow the TV was on, which disturbed me at first, though I never thought to turn it off. Writing became difficult as the page kept on shifting into some 3D and my hand was flat as the paper. The pen marks were looking more like pencil marks and I thought it should somehow be sharpened. And I was distracted further by the fact that the bottom edge of the TV screen and the entertainment center were turning into a view of a medieval European village, reminding me of a painting by Peter von Bruegel. I was looking at the European street scene when suddenly, everything separated into cubes which shifted in response to the movements of my head. The cubes separated enough so I could see beyond them, as though some sort of illusion were disintegrating. What I saw was a kind of fractal thing, or more like the effect of standing between two mirrors and seeing the same objects repeat themselves into infinity. This impression kept fading in and out and was only perceivable peripherally. It would be normal if I looked directly at it. Suddenly the cubes lifted up and I saw everything in the world, and all people in the world in all directions, all connected by some kind of yellowish umbilical cords. Somehow, I either heard a voice or saw the words printed in my mind, but someone said, "We are all the same thing." This was only for a brief instant, then the screens came back down in unison, before they too disappeared. Every time I closed my eyes, the same flowers were quietly turning like gears and sat against a bold black background, under a beautifully colored stained glass sky like a Tiffany lamp. I found myself sitting on the couch when I came back down and saw that somewhere in there I had turned off the TV. Then, quite abruptly, the high vanished, as though my brain had switched off a circuit, and I went to bed. I cannot say that I had ever experienced such dramatic hallucinations from smoking any kind of weed before, and found the effect to be quite profound and a little disturbing. I almost suspect some other substance has been mixed in with the weed, like maybe salvia or who knows what. I did have some brief moments of panic, simply because I didn't expect to get so high or experience such mind-bending hallucinations, but I managed to talk myself through it. I had been smoking weed for just under a year and had good and bad experiences, but mainly good ones. I always was the one who paid for the herb since I have such a good job for a high school student, so I always had money. But that wasn't to say that I liked paying for it. I was always looking for good deals on good bud so that I didn't have to spend so much money. Well, one night at work, one of my coworkers told me that he could give me a quarter of dank for only $25. So I said that I wanted to buy some from him, and the next night I went out to the middle of the ghetto to wait in his car while he went inside his dealer's house to pick up the bud. It looked like swag, but he insisted that it was good, high-grade stuff, the stuff that he smoked every day. Well, the several plans that I had fell through that night, so I decided to call up one of my friends and see if he wanted to try out this new weed with me. He naturally wanted to, so I went and picked him up. As I drove, he packed the first bowl and began to smoke. We smoked 3 or 4 bowls before going to a local neighborhood under construction to park and smoke some more. There were not many people living there, so it was a good smoke spot that many people went to. Well, after a slow onset, I realized that I was really stoned when we finally got there and parked the car. My friend, being a major stoner, said that he was not very high. He got out of the car to smoke a cigarette, but I stayed in the car because at this point I was starting to feel strange, unlike the normal high that I usually get. Suddenly, something hit me like a ton of bricks and made me more messed up than I'd ever been in my life. It was not a weed high at all, but something very different. All of a sudden, I was totally out of it and couldn't think straight at all. Nothing made sense and I felt like my brain could not think about anything, but all that I could do was see whatever I was looking at. I didn't have any thoughts going on in my head, which was really scary because it felt like I was dead. I got out of the car and just started to walk around, but it was more of a stumbled drunk walk. This part was weird because I don't even really remember getting out of the car to walk around. But I do remember being on my feet one moment, then the next moment I was on the ground. I had lost consciousness for a split second and fallen down on the ground, hitting my head against the pavement, but I didn't feel anything. The severely messed up feeling that I had kept getting more intense, and I just laid on the ground for about a minute. My friend asked what I was doing, and all I said was, "This stuff is laced, man." I got up off the ground and walked to my car, where I started to sweat like I've never sweat before, and my body temperature rose about 10 degrees. I was so hot and sweating so much, I didn't know what was happening to me. The incredibly messed up feeling that I had started to go down, and about 5 minutes after I'd been what I describe as being hit by a ton of bricks, I felt the original high again. This was maybe the 5 scariest minutes of my life, and I didn't know what had happened to me. I told my friend what happened, and he insisted that it was not laced. In fact, he said that he wasn't very high at all, and said that the stuff we smoked was swag and was not very good. I sold the rest of what I had to him because I wasn't planning on smoking any more of it, but he, being a pothead, wanted any weed he could get. The next day at work, I told my friend who had sold it to me what happened, and he just looked at me like I was crazy. When I told him that my other friend whom I had smoked it with had said it was swag, he just told me that it was not, but was some good high grade, and he kept insisting that it was good stuff. I don't know what was the deal with that weed, but I'll never buy stuff from a source that I don't know again. My experience taught me that I need to be more careful when I'm experimenting, and that it can be fun, but it can also be dangerous, and I need to take all the precautions necessary to make sure that I don't hurt myself.